Raising the Bets is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to Raising the Bets, a family podcast of pirates and penguins. We're a Catholic couple raising 5 kids outside of Boston. Join us as we share the joys and challenges of marriage, homeschool, and our adventures near and far as we make sense of the world and experience the best parts of our culture. I'm Don Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
Those penguins are melting.
The penguins are definitely melting.
We're gonna do the big podcast no and talk about the weather just briefly. It's hot. It is hot as heck out there.
Actually, I noticed that one of the penguins has disappeared. My theory is that it has decamped to Antarctica. Waddle is missing, and yeah, I think he gave up.
Or he's hanging out at the New England Aquarium, which is now open again. So
maybe that's it.
Yeah, he's hanging out there with the other penguins. So yes, it was hot today. But as Sophie said earlier, she's like, well, this is what summer is, right? This is what you think about when you think of summer. Hot, hot, hot.
You've got to have at least a couple hot days. And the nice thing about New England is we don't have that many hot days.
It's not like Georgia or Texas where it's, hey, it's March 1st, time for to get hot. And then, sometime around September 15th, you start getting like below 90 again. I know it's not that bad. Don't send emails. I know it's not that bad.
Sometimes it's that bad.
Yeah. So let's talk about what's been going on. So when we last talked last week, we mentioned that our dryer had died and we were waiting for a new one to be delivered.
And the new one was delivered. Yes. Thank God.
It was a long 7 days of waiting and hanging clothes on the line. And otherwise trying to avoid doing laundry unless absolutely necessary. So in order to get the dryer into the laundry room, I realized at one point that when the dryer came in when we moved here, the fridge wasn't where it is. And the fridge sticks out in the door. You gotta have to see how it works. So the fridge kind of blocks the door from the kitchen into the laundry room. And that's the only way to get to the laundry room from the rest of the house. And so if we didn't have this other option, which I'll tell you about in a second, we would have had to move the fridge. I realize now that just wouldn't have worked. So luckily, thankfully, there's an outside door in our laundry room, which we never use. In fact, there was a pile of stuff in front of it blocking the door that has been piled there. We talked about this last time, including your footlocker and other things that were piled there. You know where the footlocker is?
Beside the door.
Okay. Because I threatened to move it and you wouldn't know where it went.
I know exactly where it is.
So we moved everything out of not everything, but a lot of stuff out of the laundry room into the office here, which is the next room over. And the laundry room looked awesome.
It did for a very short period of time.
Well, it still looks pretty good because we've kept that space in front of the door clear. So we moved things around, got rid of some things. And so we can open the door. And when we had that door open when it was cooler out last week and letting the air blow through, oh my gosh, like the door is right across from the office door and the office always gets so hot. Just having that ability to get some air in here was awesome. So I totally want to keep doing that as much, keep that door free. But the guys came, they delivered it. All great. Came from Best Buy. They brought it in that door. They set it up. I didn't have to. I remember when we got the first dryer and your dad had to put the hose on the thing. Oh my gosh, that was he had such trouble getting the hose onto the back with the clamp and oh my gosh, such trouble. And then when I had to do it a few months ago when we were cleaning it out, they took care of it. Didn't have to worry a thing. It was awesome, except at the very end, what they did something horrible. We
were both in the other room when they finished doing their thing, plugging it in, etc. So they decided to do something that
Well, first they turn it on to test it, make sure it works.
Right.
So that's what I heard. I heard it turn on.
Okay.
But
they also threw in a dryer fabric softener sheet
that was like a complimentary bounce that came with the dryer. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. Yeah.
And I'm sure they thought it was a nice gesture to make the dryer smell nice and fresh. Unfortunately, I have a really bad fragrance allergy.
Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, this is one of those fake allergies that people make up because they don't like the smell of things. And 5 years ago, I might have thought the same thing. But this is a real allergy. You really have this allergy.
Right.
You suffer when this happens.
I went to the allergist and she did a skin patch test where she put the stuff on my back and then put tape on it, and it sat there for 72 hours. The fragrance patch, the red welt from that lasted for another 6 months.
Right. Yes.
6 months.
So we can't have things with fragrances. So what we don't have fragrance in our TP, our toilet paper. We don't have fragrance in our shampoo. We have to get special fragrance-free shampoo.
And this includes like the Dom and the kids
right?
Because him sleeping next to me,
right? That would be sleeping with the enemy.
I honestly, I
wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. You wouldn't be able to. We wouldn't be able to sleep in the same room. We don't have fabric softener that smells. We don't have soap that has smells.
Even dish soap,
like everything. And what's amazing and fascinating is when you get rid of all that stuff, very quickly you begin to realize how much it stinks when you do smell it. Like when I take walks through the neighborhood, I smell people's fabric softener and laundry detergent from the street. It is amazing, like strong, like someone's dumped it on the road in front of me. It is amazing how much, but we get so used to these smells that we don't notice them anymore. In fact, it was we were talking about this when I lived for a summer with for a few summers I lived with Indian priests who came to visit. They would come for the summer, and they would kind of say, "Oh my gosh, you have these weird smells here," and they would complain about the smells. And then I wouldn't say it back, but like they had a different kind of smell. They had a musk to them, to be polite. It was it wasn't unpleasant, but it was a different kind of musk to them, and they smelled in a very particular way, probably from the food they ate and whatever, that sort of thing. But we smell differently, and so you get really sensitive to perfumes when you've gotten rid of them from your house, from your life. So as soon as I smelled it, I ran in there, turned off the dryer. It only been going for 5 minutes. Like, it doesn't even have to take that long. I don't know.
The whole house smelled.
Why they would throw it into an empty dryer, like a fabric softener. Like, that's just going to like quadruple the amount of smell it's going to give off.
Because they thought that it would make the house smell nice.
Yeah, I guess. So I took it, I threw it in the trash. The trash stank, so I had to take the trash out. Then to get the smell out of the dryer, we threw open all the doors and windows, and you threw a wet towel in to the dryer.
I put vinegar and water on a towel and threw it into the dryer. That actually did the trick.
Yes. I mean, it could have been like, if you guys have ruined the dryer, you need to send us a new one. I
was not happy. I was angry for the rest of the day.
So this morning, actually, I got an email from Best Buy asking how the delivery went.
Did you?
Yes.
Respond?
I responded. I said the delivery men were polite, they were efficient, they were good, blah, blah, blah. But this is what you should never have them do. This should not be part of the protocol. This should not be done. And I explained why. Because you have a real fragrance allergy, et cetera, and it can cause breathing problems. It could even send you to the hospital. So they should not do that. They should or ask before they do it, which may actually be something they're supposed to do and just didn't. But anyway, that's so that was an adventure.
Yes, it was.
Yes, but all's well that ends well. We have a nice new dryer, works well.
Yeah. This was not the only scent adventure that we had recently.
What was the other one?
Well, a lot of places now with the coronavirus scare have been disinfecting things. Everything. So we've opened a few boxes from like Amazon and other places.
Or CVS especially.
That smell like a floral scented Lysol, I'm guessing.
They're spraying the stuff in the packages before they put them in the boxes. And then so that smell stays in there and bakes in the heat.
This was on a picture book that Ben got for his birthday. And I was like, I don't want to touch this book.
Right.
I did touch it at first, and I got it on my hands, and then I was having to scrub my hands like Lady Macbeth trying to get out the damn spot. That's a quote, by the way.
That's a quote. Shakespeare. It's okay because it's Shakespeare.
Right. Anyway, so guys, if you're sending stuff to a stranger, just
don't code it.
Don't.
Smelly.
Skip the smelly stuff, please.
Or
you never know who has a sensitivity to smells.
Right. Well, I mean, just use an unscented. There are fragrance free, not unscented. Unscented means it has something that covers the smell, but the something that covers the smell is itself a smell. But you want fragrance free, and just there is fragrance free disinfectants and fragrance free laundry freshener. Air. What is it called again? Not air freshener, the laundry stuff, the
fabric softener.
Yeah, there's fragrance free versions of all of this stuff, which is frankly, I don't know, maybe because it's harder to do fragrance free and not have it smell bad. The whole point that they put the fragrance in these things, I think, is to cover up the chemical smells of this stuff in the first place. So it's harder to take it out. Like our shampoos are wicked expensive because they're fragrance free. So
it's ironic that fragrance free is harder to find and more expensive.
Yeah, not wicked expensive, but it is more expensive. Yeah, so that was an adventure. But yeah, like I said, great. It's a great dryer. It's a Maytag. It's highly rated. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It's not like a digital thing. It's just dials, which is fine.
It is taking me actually a bit to get used to, because I'm like, now what setting am I supposed to put it on? I knew all the settings for the old one.
Right. Well, any new dryer is going to be like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the window to look in, see the thing spinning. It's fine. It's fine. Fewer things to break. There are some things I prefer analog. The dryer is one of them. Anyway, so that was fun. Then the other thing that we did is this week I decided, I forget what prompted this, but I heard I think it was the kids talking about another imaginary game that they were playing again, like the characters they were playing, they were role playing. And I said, they're old enough now. It's time. It is time for us to start playing Dungeons and Dragons. So I ordered this.
I said, go for it. Have fun.
Melanie is now a elven mage.
No.
Melanie's not playing.
I don't play.
So I ordered the starter kit. So I mean, I haven't played Dungeons and Dragons since 1987 or something like that. Like, it's been a long time. I had always had trouble finding a group of people to play with. I don't know why I always had that trouble, but it was always trouble finding a campaign. But and then my mom threw out all my D&D books because they were demonic and evil, because her friend from the Assembly of God Church told her that. That was a bad day. That was like a lot. It was a lot of money in books.
How long did it take you to forgive your mom for that one?
Let's just say I walked out of the house angry and walked maybe 5 or 10 miles through town.
Wow.
Before I cooled down and came home. I was so upset. Because it felt like a violation.
Right.
It felt dumb because I knew it was not demonic. It felt like she didn't trust me to be a good person. And all this. And plus, I had issues with her, and she was kind of double dipping, going to like mass in the morning and going to this Assembly of God Church at night. And I felt like she was sort of betraying her Catholic faith and dragging me and my younger sister into it. My older siblings were too old for her to kind of make them go, but she was dragging me and Evie into it, and I wanted nothing to do with it. She had me going. Oh, that's a whole nother thing. I'll tell the story of the Assembly of God pseudo Boy Scouts some other time. But so she had tossed out, and so there was this trauma related to Dungeons and Dragons that goes all the way back to my late teens. But so it's changed a bit since then, and in fact, I think it might be better now. I think they've learned how to lower the bar for getting in. So they have these new rules, and they have a simplified starter edition that you can get with a campaign and all that stuff just built in to get you going, and then from there you can get the bigger book with all the rules and that sort of stuff, and then add all the other books, and you go deeper and deeper and deeper as much as you want. So this is it's sort of your first hit 3, essentially. So we got started. The kit comes with so I'm the dungeon master, and the kit comes with 5 pre-selected characters, pre-rolled characters that are already created, which I think is a good idea. We were going to create new characters, but I said let's just start with what we got. I think that gets us into the game faster.
Yeah, I think that was a good idea.
Yeah, and the kids pick the characters. Like they need to they're needing to learn how the game works, like how you role play, and you need to know who your character is. How does this sort of person act? And you have to inhabit the role a little bit. So we're getting into that, and then we had a good, nice first battle with goblins. That Lucy, the littlest one, is a dwarf cleric who smashed a goblin flat with her warhammer.
She was pretty pleased about that.
Oh, and the others are just still cackling over the funny imagery of Lucy squashing a goblin flat with her warhammer. Now the funny thing is I'm kind of like really needing to get into this. I need to like read it. Like I realized how much I didn't know. I'm like, how does combat go? And what are they supposed to be doing here? And how does the magic work? And I'm flipping back and forth. So now I'm having to do a lot of studying to get up ahead of them. And okay, I'll admit it. I'm having fun.
You're having a lot of fun
because I'm finally getting to do this, and now it's with my own kids, and this is a lot of fun. So they take to it role-playing games naturally, so they already do that themselves, and so this is going to be a lot of fun. This will be hopefully a long-term thing that we can all do together. And maybe your sister Tree, who also is a dungeon master with her friends in a D&D campaign, maybe we can invite her to be part of our game.
Right now they're doing online like via Zoom or whatever games. So
yeah,
I mean, she can do, and her friends are all over the country who she's playing with.
Right. I mean, it's as long as you can see each other and talk, and you can even throw things up on a screen like maps and stuff. I found a website where someone like this guy's doing with his kids, and he's creating handouts and things like a wanted poster made by goblins, and like I'm like, wow, this would be so cool, and like a treasure map that he's aged and burnt on the edges and stuff, and stained with tea, like made it look old.
Wow, that's some dedication there.
That could be fun. I think they would really get into that.
They would.
I just have to see if I can find some time to do that sort of thing, but I'm gonna look into it because I think that would really cement it for them. So D&D, and we played a little bit on Saturday. They wanted to play this afternoon, Sunday, but they also wanted to watch Clone Wars and Rebels, and so
it was a hard choice. But they eventually went with the Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, they need to catch up on that. That's, All right. So, speaking of the kids and things that they're doing, you finally be able to get to the library.
Yes, Isabella and I went to the library for the first time since, I don't know, probably February, because we had
all of this.
Well, because we had some way overdue books, like
from February or earlier.
Right in March, when the library shut down, we already had some books that we owed some money on. I mean, I actually was kind of a heaven sent because the library froze all fines at the time when they closed down. Like, it was frozen, and did they forgive the fines from before? They didn't forgive the fines from before. Come on! And in fact, ironically, they let us check out books, but they weren't checking the ones that we brought back in for 72 hours. So we had found 2 books that they had registered as lost before the shutdown, and but my account still says I owe $42 because I owe like $20 for each of these 2 books. Yeah. But I found them, so I returned them, and I'm hopefully
curious.
That will be waived.
What is the 72 hours doing?
I don't know.
Are they trying to see if like they grow like virus on them? Are they disinfecting them? I'm kind of curious. Like, are they disinfecting the books? I'm kind of curious actually. What's going on? Like,
I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Didn't ask
Anyway, but you got some new books.
We got some new books.
The kids are ecstatic.
The kids were very, very excited to get new books from the library. But this week I had also, in addition to going to the library, I checked out some books from our library has Overdrive, which lets you check out digital
Like ebooks and audiobooks too, right?
That's a different.
Oh, that's a different. It's Libby.
But yeah, I did both.
But we'll get to that in a sec.
Anyway, so I checked out a whole series of books for the kids because somebody was very, very bored this week and had run out of reading material. And
it was an iPad less week. No iPad this week.
We had a no iPad week because we needed some detox time. So, yeah, I got the Lloyd Alexander Pridden Chronicles and 5 books. And I downloaded the Kindle versions for Anthony, and then Isabella and Sophia also realized that they were there and downloaded them to their Kindles as well. And then I got the audiobooks for Ben, and I think they've all finished the series now.
How long did it take Anthony to read all 5 of them? What, 2 days?
About 2 days, I think.
Yes, it was very quiet for like 2 days around here.
It got very, very quiet.
It's very nice when there were new books.
It was kind of like when they were all reading Harry Potter.
Right, or before that, the Wizard series, the Diane
Young
Wayne.
Wizards, yeah.
So yeah,
it's
the new books is big. That is big.
So yeah, now we've got plenty of reading material, and everyone's happy for a few days.
Well, that's the nice thing about them all having Kindles. The 3 who are regular readers, and Ben having the audio.
Right.
book.
This is one reason why I said that this was the year when Anthony and Sophia needed to get Kindles.
Well, it's a good thing
birthdays.
we did, yeah, because if without the Kindles, you can't check these books out or the library before the library reopened. So yeah, definitely. Talk about good timing. So
it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, that is pretty good. So we're Ben is now pining for the next Harry Potter, but you still you need to get another.
Well, I'm trying to ration him in terms of like keeping him from gobbling books. So, I get 1 credit a month with my membership. I could buy extra credits, but I'm kind of resisting doing that because I want to pace him
right
a little bit.
Yeah, don't gobble up all the books too fast.
Right.
Yeah. So what's Bella reading? I think I saw her reading the Silmarillion tonight.
Oh, she's kind of been all over the place.
But she just finished a class.
She did a Zoom Shakespeare class.
I think we mentioned that a couple weeks ago.
They read The Tempest, and they did four classes like of 2 hours each on successive Wednesdays.
She had an interesting insight about The Tempest.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, now I'm going to remember. That The Tempest was symbolic of... Because Shakespeare was writing it at the time the New World was opening, and she thought the Tempest was symbolic of the upheaval caused by a new world being exposed and the changes that were occurring in society due to the explorers and people coming back from the New World.
Right. She talked about the different layers of meaning of the Tempest.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah,
insightful.
Anyway, she had a lot of fun. It was a bunch of teenagers and all over the country. I mean, there were people, I think, in Florida and New York and I think California and
all in between.
In between, Texas. So that was nice to kind of have a group of new kids to hang out with and read Shakespeare with and discuss, and they acted out scenes.
And is she going to keep in touch? It would be nice if they kept like, connecting to do like. Yeah,
they're talking about doing
a club or something.
They're talking about doing another, all the kids wanted to do more Shakespeare, and so they're talking about maybe either Macbeth or Midsummer Night's Dream. Isabella is gunning for Macbeth. She really wants to read Macbeth, so that would be interesting if they pull that one together.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah,
but it works, the Zoom class, which is kind of ironic for the homeschool kid, considering all of the remote learning public school kids who are having to do Zoom now.
It's kind of funny that the zeitgeist, she's actually right there with her peers who are in public school and even private school who've been experiencing Zoom classes. Although I think that the Homeschool Connections is a little bit different. Homeschool Connections has been doing video classes for several years now. And so they've got it down. Like all the people who are teaching it are experienced and professional and comfortable with the medium, unlike the poor teachers who got thrown into it with no warning this spring.
Right.
I mean, it's a very different experience when you decide that you want to do this and you plan ahead and you've got a nice syllabus and you've got everything worked out versus like having to be thrown in the deep end.
This is what I learned with the merit badge class, which is 1 hour a week for me, and it was like, I'm lost. That was hard enough. So yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah.
Right. But I have seen some people opining online that nobody could possibly learn via a video class, and that I think is kind of silly.
You can't learn anything by watching a video, or like you can learn. You can like it's. I mean, is it best to learn in person with someone? Maybe, depending on the subject, the teacher, the student. I mean, there are things that I would rather learn at my own pace watching a video series than having to have someone lecture me for one. I mean, but there's some things you can only learn by seeing someone in front of you doing it. I wouldn't be able to learn like knot tying from a Zoom class, I think, but I would need that to be in person maybe. But other stuff I could learn. So it's such blanket statements. They bother me.
Right.
Too much.
Anyway, we have had children who have enjoyed the Zoom experience. Take that for what it's worth.
For what it's worth. So for food this week, we want to talk about a couple things. One, I don't know what happened, but Ben and Anthony and Lucy got the bug in them that they wanted to bake.
Yeah, well, Ben started it. He was bored one day this week.
It was like Monday, I think, Monday or Tuesday, early.
And he was bored, and he decided that he wanted to bake something. And so he said, well, what can I bake? And I suggested chocolate chip cookies, and he thought that sounded like a very good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who doesn't like chocolate chip cookies?
Yes.
And so he and Anthony, I showed him where the recipe was written on the bag of chocolate chips, and he and Anthony set to it. Anthony did most of the sort of reading and making sure that they were on like following the steps.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben did all the measuring and mixing, and they got out the hand mixer, and they needed a little help. I kind of sat in the dining room and just kind of made suggestions, but I tried to stay as hands off as possible. I did do the pulling things out of the oven, and I think like Ben put the first pan in, and then after that I kind of took over the actual baking part,
the dealing with the hot oven part.
Right. And then I think by that time they were kind of distracted and bored and wanted to do something else, and
they only have so much attention span.
I let them.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great thing for them to learn to do things like learn how to make cookies, because a young man who has the ability to bake cookies and desserts and things will go far in life. Let me tell you.
Speaking from personal experience?
Well, let me tell you a story. When I was at Steubenville, when I was in college, I had a part-time job working in the business office, and in the summer I worked there full-time. And so one day I was kind of like, we were all like, it was mostly women in the office, and me and a couple other, like one other guy, student worker. And the women were all talking about, cookies and stuff. Oh, I wish we had some cookies. We're all out of cookies. So I'm like, I went home at lunch, and I made chocolate chip cookies at lunch and brought them back. And they were like, their minds were blown that I brought back fresh baked chocolate chip cookies. I could walk on water from that point on. I could have slept on my desk and I would have got away with it. I mean, I was the bee's knees. Like, they were astonished. I'm like, wow, really? This is good to know. A man who can cook is a man who can go far in life, both professionally and socially. Let me tell you, right?
Yeah.
Is this one of the reasons that I managed to hook you?
Maybe. I don't know. Did you? I
cooked for you a lot.
Before we were...
no, while we were dating.
While we were dating. Yeah.
Certainly that helped in the dating to, marriage process, I would think.
Probably.
Yeah.
I know, it's a long time ago.
I don't know. I think I just wore you out.
Probably.
I just stopped asking. Okay. So Ben made chocolate chip cookies.
Yes.
And then the next day,
he really wanted to make pecan pie.
Yeah.
But we were almost out of pecans, and I was going to the grocery store that day. So I told him we could probably do it when I got back from the grocery store, but he really wanted to do it then. But I suggested blueberry pie, but even that, pie is a lot more tricky than cookies, and without an adult to kind of sit there and supervising, I wasn't sure how well that would work. Anyway, by the time I got back from the grocery store, Ben had lost interest in making pie for the day.
This was another day after making the cookies. He was still in the baking mood.
But Anthony and Lucy were game, and so they ended up making a blueberry pie. We're hoping that maybe tomorrow Ben will be up for making the pecan pie.
I will not oppose that. I like this new thing.
I am a fan.
Although my belly may not be. The scale may not be such a fan of it. But I love this idea. Like, for so long we've thought, we've got to get them cooking to take some of the burden of. I mean, it would be nice if they cooked meals. That would be good. But getting them in having them make desserts first is the first step to making meals.
I started with desserts.
I think so, because that's what they're interested in. But once you, like my nephew Dominic, Ben, he started with dessert sort of stuff, and now he's a really good cook.
Ben has actually done, like, for when he had to do the Weebelow thing. Mm-hmm. He made pasta dinner one day. Right. So he has actually cooked dinner-y things. But it's a lot of work.
What I'm thinking of is it's nice when they get to the point where they just are making dinner, like not standing beside you as you instruct them to put the pasta in the pot. More like, hey, go make dinner tonight. That'll be a nice day. That
will be very nice.
Yes.
And I mean they do make their own lunches most days.
Yeah, that's one thing you don't have to.
Like, Ben can make macaroni and cheese from the box.
Yeah.
With no help, and Anthony and Ben can both make ramen and that sort of thing. So they do actually feed themselves for breakfast and lunches. I don't make their breakfast and lunches.
Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, sometimes they need ideas. They need you to tell them what to do, but in general, yeah.
Right. So we're getting there.
So as far as us making things, you made pickles, cucumber pickles, from our garden cucumbers. Our garden is starting to really produce vegetables. We've had radishes for a while. In fact, we have a plethora of radishes, which we got to do something with.
I added some of those to the pickles, actually.
Okay. But we're starting to get
do more.
The tomatoes are in. They're green still. The snap peas are in. So on and so forth. But the pickles are really coming in. The cucumbers. Sorry, I'm thinking of them as pickles already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So last November, when we did the Cub Scout, what was Campsgiving?
Oh, Campsgiving, right.
One of the Scout dads had brought some homemade pickles, and I loved them. Yes. They were so good. I went out back for like seconds and then thirds of the pickles. And I'm not really a huge pickle eater, so yeah. and then later I think I mentioned to him how good they were, and he gave you a jar.
Yes.
And I said, okay, we need to learn how to make these. You got to get the recipe.
So I asked him, and he gave us his recipe.
Very generously.
And Tom McMahon, that's his name. Tom McMahon's spicy pickles. They're a spicy cucumber pickle, and
not dill.
Not dill, right? And they're the recipe makes a whole bunch. It makes like a dozen jars, right?
Yeah, something like that. I cut it down.
So we cut it down to 3 jars. And one of the ingredients is pickling spice, which is a mixture that you buy, from a spice house or from a store.
I couldn't find pickling spice, so I decided to make my own. So I Googled around, and I found like 2 different recipes that I kind of combined. One was, I think, from the New York Times, and I can't remember where the other one was from.
So what was in the pickling spice?
I think it had
allspice.
This is what I made.
Okay.
It had brown mustard seeds, yellow mustard seeds, coriander seeds, allspice berries, bay leaves. I used Aleppo pepper instead of the red pepper flakes.
Mm-hmm.
And
cloves,
cinnamon, turmeric, and then I use some herb de Provence as well.
Because you like herb de Provence.
Because I really like herb de Provence.
Which is a different spice blend. Yeah.
Right. And so then, and then into the pickles, I used cucumbers, of course.
Right. Of
but
course.
I also sliced up some of our radishes from the garden.
Mm-hmm.
I sliced up some onions from the farmer's market.
Yeah.
And
jalapenos
and
spice.
Garlic.
Yes. And then the liquid is equal parts water, cider vinegar, and
white vinegar.
And
then you add some salt and sugar.
Right. And just the brine alone.
The brine was so good. Like I had some left over, like after I topped up the jars, that I just took the brine and I poured it over some leftover green beans and I just ate it like that. And then like drank the last bit that was in the bottom of the container.
The brine was
really
pretty
good.
tasty. Yeah, that was, just on its own. So the pickles are in the fridge. That takes a week. Looking forward to trying them.
I cannot wait to try them. I keep looking at them every time I open the fridge saying, I really want a pickle.
They're mostly Tom's recipe, but it's a little bit adapted.
Right, because I didn't know what his pickling spice had. I kind of had to
So when it comes out,
innovate.
If it works out, which it should, we'll write it up and put it online. We'll mention it.
Yeah, I actually have already shared it with one friend on Facebook who just was saying, I've got some stuff I need to pickle right now. And I said, well, I haven't actually tried this, but here's my recipe anyway.
Let me know how it goes.
So we'll see.
That's just canning and pickling. I remember when we had a garden last time, we canned a bunch of tomatoes. I love the idea of picking stuff out of your own garden and eating it. It's nothing that tastes better than the thing you just grew in your own garden. You just picked off the vine or off the plant.
It has been really fun too for the kids because like it's now become a morning ritual to like after breakfast, everybody goes out, sometimes still in their pajamas even, and goes and like looks around at the garden like, ooh, look at the size of this cucumber. Look at this zucchini. Ooh, look, this tomato's starting to get red. Oh, and they pick some snap peas off the vine and they eat them. I don't think any of the snap peas have actually made it into the house so far.
Which is fine. This is exactly what we wanted.
Right. I did not actually expect that the snap peas would make it into the house. Like they're pretty much a snack in the backyard.
Well, the cherry tomatoes are the same way. They'll get eaten off the vines.
Right.
Although there's so many out there that maybe more than that can be eaten off the vine, but we might actually get some into the house at some point, which would be nice.
But I think that kids eat more vegetables when they can just go. Well, also when they can pick it themselves. And like, there's something about that sort of self-service that I remember last time we had a garden. They were a lot younger, but they would be eating green beans raw off the vine when like they wouldn't eat them if I served them at dinner.
Right. I got Anthony to eat a cute piece of cucumber tonight at dinner, even though he
did make faces.
Well, he made faces because it had your dressing on it. But I think if it had just been the cucumber, it might have been a little easier. But he wouldn't eat it otherwise. So, I don't know. Of course, I had so much trouble trying to get them to try the maple glazed carrots.
I do not understand why our kids will not eat glazed carrots.
It's candy. It's essentially candy. I'm like, it tastes like pancakes. Eat it. And Isabella finally takes one and she's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I thought it was going to taste like, but I want more. Like, of course you do.
Why did it take me so long to try this?
It's maple syrup. I mean, it's on the carrot. Like, come on. It's really good. It's like candy. I mean, Bella loves maple. She loves maple cream.
But she often doesn't like savory and sweet mix. Like, she doesn't like meat that's got a sweet and savory flavor.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think she was thinking that she's kind of dubious about the whole sweet savory mix.
So by the time we do our next episode, the pickles will be done and we will have tried them. We'll let
you know how they come out.
Yes. So they're taking up a lot of space in the fridge. All right. So let's talk quickly about what we've been reading and watching. And I'll let you go first because yours is a big one you've been waiting for.
Yes. I've been waiting for the newest Dresden Files novel, for a while. I did a reread of the entire series in December, January, and this is book number 16.
So you read 15 books in December and January. Just
they're quick.
Throw that out there.
They're quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, it came out on
Monday, Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah. I think it came out like Monday night at midnight.
Well, midnight. So yes.
So of course,
up.
I waited up until midnight, and I read only 8 chapters, and then I put myself to bed.
Because you had the Kindle version. Yes.
Right. Yeah, because Tuesday morning, actually, a child had a Zoom
doctor's appointment.
Yeah. So I knew I would have to get up early, but I couldn't help myself. And then, of course, it was like a race to the finish among me and several friends. And one of my friends finished like when I was only about 60% of the way done. And she's like, okay, I'm done. Who wants to talk? So then, of course, I had to just sit down and finish it.
That's the problem with racing to the end. You're the first one done. You have no one to talk to about it.
Yeah, her kids are all like away
at their grandparents.
Yeah.
But you started a private Facebook group of your friends to talk about it.
Right. Because, you don't want to like just post about it on public Facebook because then people get annoyed about the spoilers. And so a private group, people can just not check the group's messages until they're done with the book.
So we should probably back up a sec. The Dresden Files is a series of books about a private detective named Harry Dresden, who happens to be a wizard. But
right.
This is urban. He lives in Chicago, present day. This is urban fantasy.
What do you call it when you mash two genres together?
A mashup.
It's a mashup. It's a mashup between hard-boiled detective and urban fantasy.
It feels a bit like noir at first, yeah.
Right. It's detective noir. It's got the whole thing, beautiful femme fatale comes in and...
Well, first-person narrative. I was sitting in my office when she walked in. Right. That whole thing.
It's basically it's like, yeah.
It's Raymond Chandler meets Harry Potter.
Right. Ironically, his name is Harry, and he's a wizard.
Yes.
But it starts with...
You're a wizard, Harry.
I think the first novel, he's in his early 20s.
Probably, yeah.
He's young.
Yeah.
In the first novel. By book 16, he's like closer to my age.
Right. So it's urban or like magical realism, urban fantasy. There's various terms for what it is, the genre it is.
I wouldn't call it magical realism.
Okay, so maybe it's not that, but it's urban fantasy. It is our world and magic in it, and there are magical creatures and spiritual realities and various other things. And you've been talking about this, and you and your sister and other people have been talking about this for so long and talking about so much. You're so excited. I'm like, okay, fine. I will read the first book. So, because we already own it, because it's on the Kindle.
It's on the Kindle.
Yeah. So, I've been reading it. I'm halfway done. I started like 2 days ago.
On book 1.
On book 1. Halfway. Yes, not over the 15 books. I'm not you. But I'm halfway done with the first book, and it's good. It's really good. I'm enjoying it. You say it gets even better as the series goes on.
Right. The first, I mean, like a lot of series, it takes a few books to really hit its stride. Although I think even the first few books are fun.
Yes, it's got my attention. I'm enjoying the mystery of the detective investigation.
Right. I mean, they're gritty and they're violent.
There is violence, yeah.
And there is adult content.
It's not Harry Potter. It's not for kids.
Right. So this is definitely, I was, one of my friends saw me raving about it and said, can I give this to my 14-year-old? And I said, absolutely not. This is like... Yeah,
I'm just thinking of a couple scenes that I've read so far in the first half of the first book. I'm like,
no, this is definitely not for kids. But... And for adults who tend to be on the more squeamish side, maybe not.
Heck, on the first chapter of the first book is not appropriate. Yeah, for kids. But it's good. I mean, I'm enjoying it. And there was a short-lived TV series on Fox. Fox ruined yet another.
There was. I watched a little bit of it. I wasn't a huge fan.
Yeah, I like the actor. He's been in a few different things. He was in Flash, or no, he was in Green Arrow.
Yeah, he doesn't. I don't think he really looks like what I think that Harry Dresden should look like, though.
Well, the problem is I saw him as Harry first, so now he's my vision of Harry.
Oh,
unfortunately, so we'll have to talk later about what Harry's supposed to look like. Anyway,
okay.
So reading Peace Talks by Jim Butcher, right. And I'm reading Stormfront.
Yes.
Okay. So here's what I've been reading and watching. So I finished the Star Wars novel that I was reading called Alphabet Squadron. Actually, I think that's not the second book. The first book is called Alphabet Squadron. It's the series about this. And it's post Return of the Jedi. I think I mentioned last week. Post Return of the Jedi. They're still mopping up. There's still elements of the Empire still out there trying to regain control. It's well, to use the term that we've used, gritty. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's very dark, and there's very few people who are actual heroes. There's a couple of characters I like, but the thing I've noticed with Star Wars novels lately is they're introducing elements of our current day controversy. They're introducing a lot of gay and lesbian characters. Just throw it out there, and I just don't feel like it needs to be there. They haven't done it on screen yet, but I don't know. Is it inevitable? And when that happens, I don't know what I'll do with the kids. You know, it's in your face. You know, and so I wasn't really happy with that aspect of it. There are other parts of it that were clever, interesting, but it went on too long. So I'm iffy on it. I don't know if I'll read the next one. Another thing I was iffy on this week. Netflix has been like touting this one of its new movies, starring Charlize Theron, called The Old Guard. It's about a bunch of immortals, like a handful, like 4 or 5 of them, people who don't die. If they're injured, they heal quickly, etc., etc. Some of them have lived for thousands of years, others are hundreds of years, and they basically spend all their time fighting evil, holding back, you know. But for like there's a lot of sword fighting and battles and stuff, but for all that is boring. I felt I couldn't finish it. Like I almost never not finish a movie, and I got bored. It has the same old, oh, you know, back in the Middle Ages, the church persecuted us because we were witches, they thought, and I don't believe in God because I was worshipped as a god once, and yeah. And of course the hook is, you know, they're immortals, so therefore Big Pharma wants to use them to find out how to sell the secret of immortality, and that's the big hook. I don't know. I like I said, I only got halfway through it. I did finish the second season. That was on Netflix. I did finish the second season of Hannah that I talked about last week. That's on Amazon Prime, and that was pretty good. The way that ended, it was interesting, believable in total sport. It was fairly well written. Let me put it that way. The resolution did not push the boundaries of believability at all, and they've left open the door to more. I mean, there's a lot deeper story to go back to, and kind of puts our characters almost where they were in the beginning, except internally, emotionally, they've advanced. But as far as from an action standpoint, we leave them in a situation that, not where they were at the beginning, but where they can continue on as they are. I don't want to spoil anything. Okay. So, Hannah, Old Guard. Now, here's an interesting one I watched. I finally watched the 2016 remake of Ghostbusters. The one starring the women, Melissa McCarthy, Kate McKinnon, who is the Leslie Jones, and I forget the other woman's name.
So it's just like a total reboot. Like, just what if the original Ghostbusters had been women instead of men?
Except they've changed the circumstances of how they know each other. They changed, like, it's not like the same thing. Okay. But I mean, it's the same thing in that they have to hold back an apocalyptic opening of the spirit world. But the plot is different. But the plot is different. The characters are different. I mean, although they still fit the same slots, there's totally an Egon character played by, what is her name? She was really annoying. I don't know. There was something weird about the way she played this character that was kind of weird and annoying.
Well, wasn't Egon kind of supposed to be weird and annoying?
Egon was sort of a straight man. He was odd, but he played the straight man. So here's where I think, I mean, it was okay. It wasn't bad. There were some funny moments. There was some, action and interesting special effects. Here's the problem with it, I think, that I don't think I've heard anyone else really say, because a lot of people didn't like it, and some people say, oh, it's just because it's girls you don't like it. Well, no, that's not it. Because I didn't really like the second Ghostbusters movie, the sequel to the 1989, I think it was 89, the 80s one.
Okay.
And because it got too dark, and this one was too dark right off the bat. There's this fine line in Ghostbusters which plays the dark, the dark spirit world that's trying to break through, that's scary, and then the comedy aspect.
Well, the comedy is kind of campy, really.
Right, and the comedy is in the drama. In the first one, the tension is perfectly balanced. That movie is perfectly balanced between the two of them. That's what makes it so great. And it's I think they caught, what do they call it? Caught
lightning in a bottle.
Lightning in a bottle with that movie. Whereas, like, even the sequel to the first one, which had the same cast, it veered over the line into the dark, and it wasn't as good.
I don't remember if I even saw the second one.
Oh, the second one featured some, like, the ghost of some.
Oh, wait,
Russian
that was the one with the portrait, like the
portrait, right?
The creepy guy in the portrait thing,
and the river of fire underneath New York City, and
yeah, I don't remember that being very good.
It wasn't, and because they lost that balance, and I just don't think you can recapture that. I don't think. I mean, it does. I don't think it. If you had the original cast, which in fact almost the whole original cast was in this. The only one was missing was the guy who played Egon.
They were in it.
And Rick Moranis wasn't in it. But yeah, Bill Murray shows up.
As there are previous characters? Like as different characters?
Bill Murray shows up as the skeptic who doesn't believe that they're actually catching ghosts.
That's kind of ironic since he was the true believer in the first one.
Right. No, he wasn't. Dan Aykroyd played the true believer. He was kind of skeptical. He was a scammer at first.
That's right.
Dan Aykroyd shows up as a cab driver.
Since I saw that movie.
Yeah. So Dan Aykroyd shows up as a cab driver, and then the guy who played Ernie Hudson, not Ernie Banks as a baseball player. Ernie Hudson, the black guy who in that one.
Wilson?
No.
What was his name? Not Wilson.
But he shows up as playing a character of the uncle of Leslie Jones's character, who is sort of his spot in the non-scientist Ghostbuster. Chris Hemsworth is in it as the really dumb secretary. In fact, the woman who played the secretary in the original one was in it as a hotel clerk.
Janine was.
Janine, yes, Janine. Yeah. It was great. Sigourney Weaver was in the post-credit scene.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as the mentor of one of them, who had shown up or something. Anyway, it was okay. It was just okay. It wasn't great. But I mean, there was it had its moments, but it just missed something. And I don't think even like they're doing another Ghostbusters sequel, which is really the sequel to the original. It's the sequel to the Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd one. And, I don't even think that the trailer for that one, it looks like I missed it, something. I don't know. Anyway. So that's what I've been a busy week watching things. Yeah. Well, there hasn't been other stuff to watch. All my regular shows are done. I didn't watch Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this week because I'm kind of bored by this last season. Yeah. Anyway. So let's finish up by talking about today's Mass with Father Michael. Okay. So I went to Mass today with the kids. And you
stayed home with the other kids.
And this little piggy went to the market. What? And this little piggy went to the market.
Right. Actually, this week I went to the market and you stayed home.
Well, that's right.
So, there you go.
So you stayed home with the kids who couldn't go, and I went. And in the air-conditioned church, it was tough wearing a mask in there.
It was like 90 something today.
Yeah, and they couldn't have the fans on because it interfered with the live stream. And you watched it on live stream, and the gospel was about the weeds and the wheat. Mm-hmm. And we were talking at dinner, and it was funny because Father Michael has that very strong Nigerian accent. And for him, the words weed and wheat sound exactly alike. So you don't know which he's referring to.
You had to really pretty much pick it up from context. Like, is he talking about the weeds now or the wheat? And yeah, there were a couple places where I got a little bit lost.
Because he was talking about weeds in society and wheat in our society. Weeds in our culture, wheat in our culture. And you're like, is that a wheat or a weed in our culture?
I mean, it was a really good homily.
Yes.
I really, really liked it. But yeah, I did kind of he lost me a couple places.
But it was good because he was talking about how, we are, as Christians, we are wheat, but we can also be weeds. Or parts of our life can be weeds in the midst the wheat of our life, where sin is intertwined, or the fallen human nature is intertwined with the good parts of our life. And we can, at different times, be weeds to others, and we can be wheat to others, which is an interesting approach that I don't think I've heard from others.
Yeah, I really
homily before.
I really liked it, and I really liked the emphasis that he placed on the hopefulness of the owner of the field,
right?
Who says, yes, this is terrible, an enemy has sown seeds. But he talked about like the virtues of patience and perseverance, that you have to be patient. You can't just go and rip up all the weeds, because sometimes it takes time. It's a long process. You have to wait until they mature, and then you can pull them out.
You wait for the right moment.
Right. Yeah. And then also talked about perseverance, like continuing to cultivate your field, continuing to and so then he kind of talked about like the necessity of going to confession to weed out the weeds.
Confession is sacramental weed whacking.
Anyway, it was really good. And
yeah. And what's fun is as you were watching, you posted a link to the live stream.
Right.
On Facebook.
When I started watching, I try to do this when I'm watching live stream. I posted a link to the
parish's live stream, yeah,
to the live stream feed on Facebook. And actually, as we were watching, I noticed that one of my Facebook friends had started, like, it posts the little notifications up at the top of the screen. And one of my Facebook friends who does not live anywhere near us,
yes,
and whose only connection to the parish would be me, started watching it in the middle. Like, I was like, oh, hi. That was kind of fun. And then afterwards, my parents both said, oh, that was a really good homily. So they both listened, even though they, I believe, actually went to mass at their parish today.
But they have a connection because they go to mass there with us when they visit.
Right, when they visit. So they, and it's kind of nice to be able to share. And who knows who else might click and watch.
This is, again, we've said it before, this is an interesting time we're living in, where all of these masses, all of these different homilies are now available online for anybody to wander into. There's a greater possibility of reaching out to people.
Actually on Facebook this week, one of my Facebook friends said that she had a friend who was an atheist who was interested in watching some live stream masses, preferably in his area, but maybe even from other places. And so she was asking for her friends to give her links to live stream masses to give to her atheist friend. Like, what an amazing time we live in, where people who might not feel comfortable actually going into a church because I'm an atheist and will people hate me? Do I belong? Can dip their toes in, and who knows what the Holy Spirit can do once you start to watch. That's an opening of the door to grace right there.
And one thing, the priests out there should be aware of, and deacons, is your homilies are being heard by bigger audiences than ever before. You listen. Maybe
they shouldn't think too much about that.
Maybe not. They're being recorded and available to be replayed at a later date. But it's what a great opportunity is to hear so many different perspectives in preaching. I mean, to listen to masses from around the world.
I actually haven't taken advantage of that as much as I should.
No. I mean, Father Roderick does a weekly Sunday Mass for geeks, where because of his, he's a huge geek. And so he has a mass where his homily is kind of focused around tying the readings in with geek topics, with superheroes, Star Wars, Star Trek, all that sort of interesting stuff. And what he's really reaching to is an audience that isn't necessarily Catholic to begin with, but his YouTube audience who follows him because he talks about Star Wars and because he does Lego. It's his way of reaching, and he's reaching people. He's with this. It's amazing, and he does that on Sundays. So, yeah.
What a chance to, Pope Benedict, I remember, wrote a letter about evangelization, and he talked about
evangelizing the digital continent.
Evangelizing the digital continent, and that's been one of those images that's really stuck with me. That just as the explorers went out into the new world,
and brought missionaries with them,
right? That the online world, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, they're all ripe mission fields, and there's room for people to go there and bring Christ with them to people who would otherwise not go to church, not pick up the Bible, not seek out faith topics.
This is the mission of StarQuest. This is SQPN's mission. That's why we're there. We are exploring the intersection of faith and pop culture in this place, for not just for Christians who are interested in pop culture, but for people who are interested in pop culture who might be interested in finding out what faith has to do with it. That's what we're there for. And so this time that we're in, despite the bad, there's a silver lining that's possible. So,
well, God always,
yes. Whenever what is it? Whenever a door closes, a window opens. Or maybe that's not the right one, but there's always a silver lining. We should wrap things up there.
Okay.
But I want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Raising the Bets, including David K., Jose C., John C., Alice C., and Leah M. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue Raising the Bets and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us. If you have any feedback on our discussion, you can let us know by commenting at sqpn.com/bets. That's BETTS, or at the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to bets@sqpn.com. And I'll put links to the various movies and books and other things we talked about in our show notes on sqpn.com. Remember to like Raising the Bets on the StarQuest Facebook page and retweet us on Twitter, where we're at SQPN. And feel free to engage with us on social media. Leave comments, leave feedback there. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, I'm Dom Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
Thank you for listening to Raising the Bets on StarQuest.